women's stories matter.
Yeah.
Right.
They just matter.
They do.
Hi everyone, I'm Isabella. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about some books about women and where women are a little bit more raw. You get to see a little bit more dimensions to them. And the reason I wanted to make this video today is because growing up, I found it very difficult to find female characters that I really related to. And it's like, yeah, like you can relate to them on a surface level. I'm not saying all popular media is really bad at, writing female characters, but I did notice that like there was like this itch that I needed to get scratched. Like there's this other part of being a girl that, the more like messier, darker parts that I feel like aren't really represented as much. The closest I got was like watching Fleabag a couple years ago, and I thought it was so brilliantly written and filmed, and I loved it, and I was craving more stories like that. Like every time I see just like a sliver of what it's like to be more of an angry woman or a depressed woman, like I just want to explore that side a little bit more. Because I always felt like there was just something deeper, I'm just itching for more of that. So I'm on this quest to find more books that are like that. And so far I have 3 books that I actually very much loved and that I would recommend. And so I would like to share it with you guys now. The first book that I wanted to share is called Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. I have the book with me right here. She's pretty thick, and like the words are also pretty small, and they're like long pages, so it actually took me like a month to get through this book, but I persisted and I finished it. And I would like to say I don't agree with every single point that Dr. Estes has put in her book, but I do really, really love her perspective on womanhood and femininity and even masculinity. So Dr. Estes goes through different stories, different myths from across the globe, from different time periods in which the archetype of the wild woman is represented. A lot of societies and communities around the world, like women are in fact restricted. You have to live by these rigid rules, whether they be real rules or societal rules. And so this wild woman is the version of yourself that surpasses all of that doesn't even care about all that because she's concerned with her own soul and her own being. It is a really big book, but I do have to say, like, there are so many stories in this book that I really resonated with. Estes offers her analyses on these different stories and how they relate to us metaphorically from a psychological perspective. I really liked reading it because as I was reading it, I could feel that like fire in my belly. I could feel this feeling of like, she's so right. What am I doing? Just doing the same old routine every single day. What am I doing when I know there's something else that I want, when I know I want to go in a different direction? And I feel like this book really opened my eyes up to that. There was one story in particular about, women, a much bigger woman dancing, and how she was so connected to her body, and it didn't really matter what she looked like. In fact, she loved what she looked like, and it didn't really matter what other people thought of her body. I thought that it was very inspiring, at least to me, because I grew up with body image issues, and so getting the chance to read a book in which this woman is just like enjoying being in her body and no one can tell her that she's not allowed to be in it, I was like, oh my god, I wish I read something like this when I was younger. And I think about it from time to time when I put on a new pair of jeans or like a new shirt or a new dress and I'm like looking at how my body looks like and not really enjoying it. I always think about that story in which the wild woman just doesn't give a shit, bro. Like, she does not care what you think about it because she knows that she's allowed to exist in her own body and she's allowed to flaunt it and love it. And that really opened up something for me. So there's a variety of different stories that you might be able to relate to, and for that I think it's worth reading. I'd say like out of 5 I would give it like a 3.5 to a 4. Not my absolute favorite because, as I said, like there were some things I disagreed with and it was very, very long and kind of hard to get through at times, but at the end of the day it did shift my perspective a little bit. It did give me a new kind of insight into what it means to be a person in the world, and especially a woman in the world, and what it means to just let yourself be untamed and live a creative, fulfilling life. So I like that. The next book that I recommend is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, and I have this book right here. I have the series tie-in version, which I actually really love because I think this cover goes hard. So I discovered this book in university, so a few years ago, when my friend recommended it to me. And when I read it, I could not stop thinking about it for ages. I still can't stop thinking about it. The entire book has this like feeling of darkness and something disgusting. Like it's not a very fun, pretty little book, but I thought it was spectacular, especially for that reason. And there's actually a quote from the author herself, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'll probably insert it in the video somewhere.
It goes, "So Sharp Objects is not a particularly flattering portrait of women, which is fine by me. Isn't it time to acknowledge the ugly side? I'm talking violent, wicked women, scary women. Don't tell me you don't know some. The point is, women have spent so many years girl powering ourselves to the point of almost parodic encouragement. We left no room to acknowledge our dark side. Dark sides are important. They should be nurtured like nasty black orchids. So Sharp Objects was my creepy little bouquet."
Just a little context on the book. It's about a journalist who has to go back to her small hometown to uncover the murder of 2 little girls. And during this time, she has to stay in a house with her emotionally abusive mother and her very rebellious 13-year-old sister. You see their dynamics, and you see the way that women relate to each other and the way that these women exist within the society that they live in, you know, like how they rebel against it or how they fall under the pressure to it. And I thought it was one of the only books I've ever read where like I can see it and I can feel where all of them are coming from. And I don't want to give too much away because of like spoilers, but I thought this was a spectacular book where you got to see some darkness in women and some monstrosity in women, not in a way that you're condoning it or whatever, but in a way where you get to see it and understand it and experience it through the characters and see a different side to female characters that you don't really get to see in popular media. So I really love this book. The last book that I want to recommend is Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth by Warsan Shire. So this is what the book looks like. It's very small. You can read it very quickly. Now, this is a book of poems, and it's one of the best books of poems I've ever read in my life. I love Warsan Shire's poetry. I actually discovered her for the first time when I was in high school and Beyonce's Lemonade album came out. And during the music video, Warsan Shire's poetry was read in the back. I absolutely love that, and so that's why I went out and I got her book of poems. And so Warsan Shire is a Kenyan-born Somali poet, and a lot of her poetry is about women who lived through war. I really like her poetry because it shows a lot of intricacies. It shows the internal world of women who are in oppressive households and communities and societies and who have been deeply affected by war. I really enjoy the way that Warsan Shire can use imagery to convey very, very deep cut feelings. It's not as simple as like just saying it as it is. Like she paints an incredible picture. And I noticed that like she really uses like the body to describe what things feel like.
Just to explain what I mean a bit further, this is an excerpt from Shire's Anger off of Beyonce's Lemonade. It goes, "If it's what you truly want, I can wear her skin over mine, her hair over mine, her hands as gloves, her teeth as confetti, her scalp a cap, her sternum my bedazzled cane. We can pose for a photograph, all 3 of us, immortalized, you and your perfect girl."
Anyway, those are my book recommendations for today about raw women and women being people and women's feelings in the shadows coming to light. I would like to make a second part to this video sometime soon. But right now, these were the books that I wanted to recommend because I can't stop thinking about them. And I hope you guys find some use in it as well. Thank you for watching my video. Bye.